Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump and today I'll be reviewing Octopath Traveler 1, which was released back in 2018. Now, this story, or should I say stories, is that the main concept as when you play through the game is that you play as different characters and each character kind of like can interact with each other because when you start the game you can choose which characters to start off as. So you've got like a character that is like some sort of healer character. You've got a guy that's like so it's like a knight sort of character, that sort of thing, and then you've got a bunch of other characters with their own specific roles when it comes to like how you fight enemies, that sort of thing. And each character has their own unique stories, and that's really cool. So you've got one that wants to take revenge. You've got one that wants to explore the world. One that wants to find like different. I believe one is like finding a particular herb for their friend or something. I could be misremembering that bit. And then you've got a lot of the other characters that have their own unique stories and stuff like that. And as a whole, I think that's a really interesting way of playing a game because when you play a game, you just play like one particular story and that's it. But when it comes to games like Octopath Traveler, where you have multiple different characters playing or doing having all their different like stories and stuff like that, it's really interesting because you will get to experience part of the story when you play through the game, and you can head towards for example, once you've done one particular or once you start a particular character story, you can go and do another character story or something like that, and that's really fun. And I do, and this is like this is basically an RPG type of game. And what I like about this is that it's all done in 2-bit, but like 2-bit, but the way you explore is sort of like done in a sort of like 3D-ish sort of environment. You'll probably you'll probably understand a whole lot more when I do the gameplay later on in the video. But it's all done. It's the way you traverse the world is kind of cool because it's kind of like in that sort of like 2-bit style, but sort of like 3D exploration of sorts. It's kind of like if you go from the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past to the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time in terms of exploration. It's one of those things where like you have to experience it or watch it to understand what something or how it's being described as, because I think describing it can only go very far when talking about a particular game, movie, TV show, that sort of thing. And with Octopath Traveler, it's really fun. And of course, you've got the characters who've all got their own different unique skills and abilities, that sort of thing. And I think that really helps out with the gameplay because each character all has their own unique abilities. So you might have one that's a tank, one that's just an all-out attacker, one that's a healer, one that might use spells, one that might use physical attacks, that sort of thing, to hit enemies. And that's really cool, and it's such a really fun, unique way of playing a game. And now it's time for some gameplay. So, when it comes to the graphics of Octopath Traveler, you can tell that, or you can see that it's got a good blend of both 2D and 3D. So as you can see, all the characters you interact with or you play as are 2D, but the surrounding areas are 3D, which I think is quite cool. It's a good sort of like awesome blend of both like designs, and I think that will help elevate the game as a whole. And now I'm going to show you some of the gameplay. So similar to other RPGs like Pokemon, the original Final Fantasy VII, for example, you will have these random encounters, and you will have, and as you can see, each of the enemies have vulnerabilities and shields. Now the shields are interesting because they can only be destroyed by weaknesses. So, for example, if I attack any of the enemies with ice attacks, then their shields will go down. But any other attack that's not what they're weak to, they will do damage, but they won't break a shield. And I think that's somewhat interesting because you have to really think about what kind of attack or how to use your party wisely and how to use each of their special abilities or their weapons and stuff like that. And when it comes to their weapons, I do like how a lot of the characters you interact with or you play as all have their own unique different weapons, which I think is quite cool. And also, uh, as the battle goes on, you will see that there are these glowing orb things next to where the characters are, and that basically means that they basically can boost your attacks and you can deal more damage. So, for example, if I did a regular attack to one of the enemies 3 times or 2 times, for example, then I'll attack the enemy that amount of times. And yeah, that also does help with the flow of battle. I think the whole boost attack thing is really cool and really interesting and intriguing in terms of like how the game is done. And I do like how each of the characters you play as all have their own unique skills as like a different class. So you've got one that's a thief, you've got one that's a merchant, you've got one that's a healer, and I think that's really, really cool. I think each character you interact with and you recruit and you play as all have their own unique abilities and their own unique roles when playing through the game. So yeah. So that's been it for the gameplay. Now it's time to go back to the review. So as a whole, I think that Octopath Traveler 1 is it's a really fun game, and it was one of those games that I wanted to play, or when I saw it being announced and stuff, I wanted to play when it got released, but I kind of like slept on it for a bit until when I saw it on discount on my PlayStation, so I thought I might as well get it. It's on discount, so might as well buy it and play it, and it's really, really fun. It's one of those very fun RPGs that just makes you play through as different characters and experience different stories. And I think another series of games that kind of comes close to this sort of thing when it comes to like playing through multiple stories is the Elder Scrolls game. So for example, in, let's say, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, you can play as a warlock, becoming the Archmage of the College of Winterhold, or become the leader of the Companions, or becoming the leader of the Assassin Guild, the Dark Brotherhood. There we go, becoming the leader of that, or becoming the Dragonborn. And each person's story, or when they play the game in Skyrim, will be completely different to how someone else might play it. And it's kind of like that with Octopath Traveler, where you'll have like, let's say 10 people talking about the game, and then 3 people might have chosen one particular path. Like they might have chosen the same character but gone in different directions. Then another 3 people might have done the same thing, but again chosen this different path and stuff like that. And the last 4 people might have done the exact same mood or something like that. And that's really cool because each person's story or experience through Octopath Traveler 1 will be completely different to another person when playing through the game and experiencing the world and the story and fighting all the enemies and the characters and stuff like that. And that's really, really cool. And I think as a whole, it's a really, really fun game. So that's been my review for Octopath Traveler 1. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.